There's no doubt that in-person D&D is the most authentic way to play the game. And when we're not playing, it's how some of our favorite D&D shows are played. But what if I told you that online D&D has not only done more for the game in just a few years, but also can provide a better experience for both DMs and players alike? Today, we're going to talk about 3 ways that online D&D is better than in-person D&D. Stick around. Hey guys, I'm Tony Rodriguez and I'll be your Encounter Smith. Here, we like to come up with ways to make your games more interesting and accessible. So when the lockdown started, like many of us, I learned how to run my games online. And honestly, I fell in love with it and have been running my games online ever since. And there are some significant benefits I found to running games online. First of all, there's the accessibility. Now, this is probably the most obvious one. Online D&D has brought in a lot more people to the game just because they're able to play it. There are lots of people who wanted to play D&D, but didn't have anyone to play with or didn't live around any of the people who wanted to play. Now with online D&D, you can play with your friends anywhere in the world. You can meet new friends. And in terms of scheduling, the bane of all D&D campaigns, scheduling has become significantly easier. It's not perfect, don't get me wrong, but is definitely easier. And the distance between you and your players are no longer an issue. My in-person game that I started playing the game with went on for years afterwards online, with my players spread out across Florida, Alaska, and Korea. Now, scheduling that was a little bit of a nightmare, but continuing playing with those people gave me some memories of D&D I'll probably have for the rest of my life. Tools are also more accessible with online D&D. Virtual tabletops like Roll20 and Foundry VTT are really excellent ways to not only play the game online, but express more creativity more easier. Diverse and beautiful maps, tokens, and stat blocks and content of additional monsters are more accessible online, and you can find them either really cheap or free. Now, while you don't need things like maps and tokens and minis or terrain to have a good D&D campaign, once you play the game for so long, you naturally want to up the game in terms of the showmanship, and that is just easier to do online. Collecting and painting minis or 3D printing and painting terrain takes a lot more money and effort than it is to either build your own map with tools online or commission someone to make one, or get one for free. And speaking of these paid assets and tools, that leads us to the next point, which is opportunity. It should be no secret that the hobby got such a boom of players and influence because of the lockdown. Online D&D has increased the player base so big that opportunities started to arise for artists and creators. People making and selling maps, people making and commissioning portraits of characters and monsters, even whole websites dedicated to DMs to get paid for the efforts of playing additional games with other people. Now, whatever your opinion is on paid content and paid DMing games, you have to admit that this is only possible because of how many more people online D&D has brought to the game, and that is super special to me. I mean, we just got a movie about it. But it's not just opportunities for making money, it's also opportunities for meeting new people. I actually talked to someone in the movie theaters for Dungeons & Dragons the movie, and he told me that he went on Reddit and found a group, and he's been playing with that group for 2 years now and consider them some of his best friends, especially since he's moved away from home to a new place. While personal connections is definitely very strong in in-person games, connections that weren't even previously possible are now possible because of online D&D. And my last point is, over the years, I've figured out how to do some really fun and unique mechanics to online D&D. Now, there are definitely some things that in-person games will have that won't hit the same online, like handing a player a prop that your character would be holding. Feels awesome, and you can't really replicate that online well. But I had a social encounter with my players once running a module, and I put a Ouija board in Roll20. I turned off my face camera so they no longer could see me speak. Instead, they were following the token I made that scrolled across the Ouija board that I could control, spelling out the responses to all of their questions. For a moment there, my players forgot I was even there and were just waiting on bated breath to see what the spirits were spelling out in answer to their questions. I've also seen some people take their face cam and temporarily turn it off and replace it with portraits of important NPCs as they're speaking as them. This is a great way to immerse your players and get them more familiar with important NPCs. I really love that. Now, am I saying that online D&D is the best way to play Dungeons & Dragons? Absolutely not. I was a strict in-person pen and paper DM for a very long time. And I've learned as this hobby grows with people, it also grows in itself and how to experience it. And I think so many people look at online D&D as how it started, so they assume that is the purest way to play. But I think as the hobby has grown with people and inspiration, that it has changed in so many awesome ways, and we should celebrate all those different ways to play the game. Now, this is all well and good, but how do you even play D&D online? Well, I like to use Roll20 because they have lots of tools and assets that are easy to use and are a part of their free version. So if you want to learn how to use that, I'll put up a playlist right here showing you some tutorials meant for free users and beginners to online D&D. Thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you next time.